boys and girls. Today we are going to be working on lesson 9.4 in math, and it's comparing fractions. So before we begin our lesson, I would like you to pause the video. You will need a pencil and your math book, chapter 9 math book, page 525. And if you would like some extra scrap paper, go ahead and get your scrap paper as well. So go ahead and pause the video and go get those items. Okay, before we begin our lesson, I just want to go over a couple of vocabulary words that we've already introduced. And the first one is numerator. Okay, you're going to see this word in our lesson today a lot. So numerator is the part of the fraction that's above the line. So this numerator will tell how many parts that we're going to be counting, okay? So the numerator is always on top of our fraction line, okay? Our next word is going to be denominator. Now, our denominator is also part of the fraction, but our denominator is what is below our fraction line, okay? I always think denominator starts with a D and down below the line. So down, denominator. They both start with D. So that helps me remember that denominator is down under the fraction line. The denominator tells me how many equal parts there are in the whole or the group. So in this instance, there's a total of 1, 2, 3 parts. So that's where they get the 3 for the denominator. Just like up here, the numerator, which is the 1, there is 1 part being counted or shaded in, okay? So numerator is on top of the fraction line. Denominator, remember that D, is down below that fraction line. Okay, so go ahead and turn to page 525. 525. Your paper should look like mine. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. So today we're going to be comparing fractions. We're going to be looking at fractions, and we are going to be deciding what fraction is bigger than the other, or maybe less than the other. So let's go ahead and get started. It says Luke and Anne are eating the same size small pizzas. One plate has 3/4 of Luca's cheese pizza. Another plate has 5/6 of Anne's mushroom pizza. Whose plate has more pizza? Well, let's look at the numbers that we need to compare. I think it's always important to look at the problem and decide what we need, what information we need in order to solve the problem. So I know that I have 3/4 for Luca, and I have 5/6 for Anne, okay? They're asking me whose plate has more pizza. Whose plate has more pizza, okay? So the question over here says, how many pieces make up each whole pizza? Well, I know that Luca's, he's getting cheese, and that makes up 4 pieces. So I can write cheese is 4 pieces. Now, I'm not finished because I have to have Anne's pieces yet. And what is she getting on her pizza? Well, she's getting mushrooms. So the mushroom pizza is how many pieces? Well, remember the total number of pieces is your denominator. So how many total pieces does Anne's mushroom pizza have? Yeah, 6. So she has 6 pieces. Now, I'm going to show you a few strategies in order to find out whose plate has more pizza, okay? So one of the strategies that you can do is draw a picture. So here we have Luca. They drew a picture, a pizza, a circle pizza, and we know that Luca had 4 pieces. So they broke this circle into 4 equal pieces, and each piece would be 1/4. Okay, that's where they get the fraction 1/4. This is 1 piece out of 4. This is 1 piece out of 4, 1 piece out of 4, 1 piece out of 4. Okay, here you have Anne. Anne has her mushroom pizza, and it's out of 6 pieces. So again, they drew the same shape as Luca's, which is a circle, but this time instead of cutting it into 4 pieces, they had to cut it into 6 pieces because Anne's pizza was in 6 pieces. So that's how you know that they cut it into 6 pieces. Again, 1/6 each for each piece. This is 1 piece out of 6. 1 piece out of 6, 1 piece out of 6, and so forth. Okay? So now what we're going to do, we're going to shade Luke's pizza. Okay? Now, and we're going to shade Anne's pizza. Okay? So Luca, had 3/4 of pizza. 3/4. So how many pieces do you think that we need to shade? If he had 3 out of the 4 pieces, how many do you think we should shade? If you said 3, you're correct. So let's go ahead and shade in, doesn't have to be perfect, shade in 3 of those pieces. Okay. 3 of those pieces. All right. So here we go. We have 3 pieces. Now let's look at Anne. How many pieces? Look at her numerator. 5 out of the 6. So let's go and shade 5 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. Now, if I look at those pizzas, I can see that each fraction represents a whole that is, they're each missing 1 piece. Okay, they're each missing 1 piece. Since 1/6 and 1/4, a smaller piece is missing from Anne's pizza. So I need to look at this, and I can say that right here, this is bigger just by looking at my picture. Luca's piece is bigger than Anne's piece. So the 1/4 is bigger than the 1/6. Now, so we need to put a symbol in here. If you remember back, there's different symbols that we can put in. We can put in this symbol, an equal sign, or this symbol, okay? Greater than, equal than, less than. So remember, the greater than is like an alligator, okay? The alligator is going to chomp the bigger number, or in this case, the bigger fraction, okay? It's going to open and eat the bigger fraction. So looking at my picture, what would be the bigger fraction? Exactly 1/4. My 1/4 piece is bigger than my 1/6 piece. So my alligator is going to eat the 1/4 piece. Okay? So if a smaller piece is missing from Anne's pizza, she must have more pizza. So whose plate has more pizza? Anne's. So go ahead and write Anne's. Okay, now that's one strategy, okay? One strategy is to draw a picture. Try your very, very best to get it to be equal. Okay, the circles are equal here. And then you split it, and then you shade it in, okay? And here you can tell that 1/4 is bigger than 1/6, okay? So drawing a picture is one strategy in comparing fractions. Now, let's look down here. I'm going to teach you another strategy, okay? It says Morgan ran 2/3 mile. So right now we have Morgan, and she's running 2/3 mile. We also have Alexa, who's running 1/3 mile. They want to know who ran farther, okay? Who ran farther? So they want us to compare 2/3 and 1/3. They already have it set up, okay? So whoever ran farther is going to be over here, because remember, it's farther is bigger, and our alligator is going to eat the bigger fraction. But I like to rewrite my fractions. So I have 2/3. I'm going to put that circle in the middle. And then I have 1/3, okay? Now, I want you to look at these two fractions. What do you see that is the same in both of those fractions? What do you see that's the same in both of those fractions? Yes, the 3's. They both have 3 as their denominator, the number that's down, okay? So I like to go ahead and circle what's the same, okay? The 3's are the same. The denominators are the same. Now, we're going to be comparing our denominators and numerators throughout this lesson. So whenever I see that the denominators are the same, I'm just going to think normal, okay? So I need to look at my numerators and I need to decide what's bigger. Is my 2 bigger or my 1 bigger? What number is bigger? If my denominators are the same, I'm just going to ask myself, is the 2 bigger or 1 bigger? What's bigger? What number is bigger? 2. Very good. So 2/3 is the bigger number. So my alligator is going to eat 2/3. Okay? So when I have denominators that are the same, I'm just going to think normal. I'm going to look at my numerators and decide, is 2 or 1 bigger? Well, logically, 2 is bigger than 1. Okay? So let's go ahead and fill in my answer down here. Now all I got to do is copy from what's up here. If I have what eats the bigger number, I have my greater than sign here. I'm going to put a 2 and I'm going to put a 1 here. So who ran farther? We'll find out who ran farther. Remember, the alligator mouth eats the bigger fraction. Who ran longer? Who has 2/3? Morgan or Alexa? Exactly, Morgan. So Morgan ran farther than Alexa, okay? So yes, you can look at your denominators to decide who ran farther, as long as your denominators are the same, okay? Your denominators have to be the same. When the denominators are the same, you can compare only the number of pieces, or the numerators, all right? Now, could we have drawn a picture? Absolutely. We could have drawn 2 circles. I cut them each into 3 pieces because remember, oops, I'm sorry. I would have done that completely wrong. I need to cut them into 3 pieces. So I'm going to do a Y. When you want to cut something into 3 pieces, you just make a Y. Okay, try to do it as equally as possible. All right, so I have 3 pieces. Here I'm going to shade in 2 pieces. And here I'm going to shade in 1 piece. And you can tell visually from our pictures that 2/3 is bigger than 1/3. Okay, so therefore Morgan ran farther than Alexa. All right, okay, let's move on. Go ahead and turn your page. And let's look at this one, okay? Now, we've already learned that we could draw pictures. We've already learned that when our denominators are the same, we can look at our numerators to help us decide which fraction is bigger, okay? Now you're going to see that our numerators are going to be the same. So we're going to think a little bit differently. So let's look at our problem. It says Miss Davis is making a fruit salad with 3/4 pounds of cherries and 3/8 pounds of strawberries. Which weighs less, the cherries or the strawberries? Well, let's circle what we need to find out, okay? The important information. I need to have 3/4, and we're talking about cherries, and I have 3/8 pound, but we're talking about strawberries. Now, I want to know which one weighs less, okay? I need to find out which one weighs less.
Good morning, staff. Just want to let you know.
Okay, my apologies for the interruption. Okay, so we have 3/4 pounds of cherries, 3/8 pounds of strawberries, and we need to find which one weighs less, okay? So again, I like to rewrite my fractions, okay? So I'm going to do 3/4 with my circle and 3/8. Just helps me stay organized, all right? Now, let's look at this. Do you notice anything that's the same with these fractions? Do you notice anything that's the same with these fractions? Yeah, the numerators, the number on top, are the same. They both have 3's, okay? Now, this is a little bit trickier because you have to think differently, all right? When I have the same numerator, I have to think opposite, all right? When the numerators are the same, I can look at my denominators, but I have to think opposite, okay? I have to think to myself, would you rather share with 4 people or 8 people, okay? So, which one is bigger, but I'm thinking opposite? Is 4 bigger than 8, or is 8 bigger than 4? Well, if I was thinking normal, or logically, I would know that 8 is bigger than 4. But I'm thinking opposite. So if it's opposite, which one is actually bigger? Yes, 3/4, okay? My 3/4 is bigger than 3/8 because I'm going to get a bigger piece when I only share with 4 friends than if I would share with 8 friends, okay? Again, you could draw the picture. I can draw 2 circles. I can cut my first one, remember your total number of pieces is at the bottom, into 4 pieces. Make a plus sign. And I need to cut this one into 8 pieces. So I do a plus sign and then an X. Okay? Shade in 3. And this one, shade in 3. And you can see that more has been eaten out of the 3/4 than the 3/8. So 3/4 is bigger than 3/8, okay? But you have to be careful because the question asked, which weighs less? So what fraction is less? Well, I know this is my greater sign right here because my 3/4, my alligator is eating my 3/4. So what fraction is less? My 3/8. So you have to make sure when you do it like this and you copy it over, you need to make sure you put the fraction in the correct spot. So I see that my alligator is eating my 3/4. Here, my alligator right here looks like it's eating this fraction over here. So I have to put my 4 here and my 8 here. Okay? Different setup, but it means the same thing. So, which one weighs less? Well, go back up to your problem. I know my less is this fraction right here, so go back up to your problem and find out which one is less, cherries or strawberries. Which one was 3/8? Strawberries, exactly. So you should write strawberries. go ahead and write strawberries. So the strawberries weigh less. Okay? So if the denominators are the same, you think normal. You look at those numerators and you think normal. If my numerators are the same, you have to look at your denominators and think opposite. Or again, you could draw a picture to decide. Okay? All right, I'm going to show you another way. Okay, I'm going to show you another way in just a minute. All right? Let's look at number 1. It says compare 7/8 and 5/6. All right, it says what is missing from each whole? Well, what's missing from each whole is right here. They're missing the other piece of their circle, right? So they're missing a 1/8 here and a 1/6 here. Okay, so how would you be able to figure that out? I'm going to show you, all right? Now, I told you I like to rewrite my problems. Okay, you guys are all good at multiplication. So we're going to do something called cross multiply, okay? Because if I look at my fractions, do you notice anything that's the same about them? Well, let's look. Are my denominators the same? No. Are my numerators the same? No. There's nothing the same about them. Of course, I could draw my pictures, okay? But there's another way I'm going to show you. There's another strategy that I think you'll really like. You're all great at multiplication, okay? We are going to do something that means cross multiply. So I'm going to circle these two numbers, and I'm going to multiply them. Boys and girls, what is 7 times 6? What is 7 times 6? 42. Very good. So I'm going to put 42 on top, okay? I'm not finished. I'm going to cross. We're going across. I'm going to cross multiply. Okay, so I already have 42 on up here. So now I'm going to cross multiply my other side. So I'm going across. I always like to circle it. And now I need to decide what is 8 times 5. What is 8 times 5? Well, it's 40. So I'm going to put 40 on top, okay? So I always put my numbers on top. Now, what is bigger? Is 42 or 40 bigger? Well, of course, 42 is bigger than 40. So my answer is that 7/8 is greater than 5/6. So 7/8 is greater than 5/6. So now I go back over to my problem and I can put my greater than sign. Remember, your alligator always eats the bigger number. So 7/8 is greater than 5/6, okay? So you guys are great at multiplication. So if the numerators and the denominators are different, go ahead and cross multiply. We'll go ahead and try another one that way. So let's look at number 2, okay? I have 1/2 and I have 2/3. Again, I look to see what's the same. Do you notice that if anything is the same? Look at your numerators. Well, they're not the same. Look at your denominators. They are not the same. So I'm going to cross multiply. Again, I like to rewrite my fractions. Okay, and I'm going to cross multiply. So I'm going to cross this side, and I know 1 times 3 is what? What is 1 times 3? 3. So I'm going to put a 3 up here. Zoom in. Now you got to do the other side. 2 times 2. What is 2 times 2? It's 4. So I'm going to put a 4 up here. So what is bigger? Is 3 bigger or 4 bigger? Well, of course, 4 is bigger, okay? So on this side, 2/3 is greater than 1/2. So 1/2 is less than 2/3. 1/2 is less than 2/3, okay? Now, it says write the strategy you used. We cross multiplied. So you're more than welcome to put cross multiplied. Okay, we cross multiplied. All right, let's look at another one. Let's look at number 3, okay? Let's see what's the same. Is there anything the same? Yeah, our denominators, remember denominator is down, the number down, okay? Our denominators are the same. So when our denominators are the same, we just have to think normal, boys and girls. We have to look at the numerators. Which one is bigger? Is the 3 or the 2 bigger if I'm thinking normal, if I'm thinking regular? Yeah, the 3 is bigger, okay? So 3/4 is greater than 2/4. So 3/4 is greater than 2/4. Okay, so we use the strategy that the same denominator. So you're going to write same denominator. Same denominator. So go ahead and write that on the line. We had the same denominator. So that's the strategy that we used. Okay, let's look at number 4. We have 3/8 and 3/6. Do you notice anything about those two fractions? Do you notice anything that is similar or the same? Yeah, you should have noticed that the 3's, the numerators are the same, okay? The numerators are the same. So when the numerators are the same, boys and girls, you have to think opposite. You have to think different, okay? I have to look at the denominators, and I have to ask myself, well, which one is bigger? Well, logically, I know that 8 is bigger than 6, but I'm not thinking logically. I'm thinking opposite. So if I'm thinking opposite, boys and girls, which one is actually bigger, the 8 or the 6, if I'm thinking opposite? Yeah, I would say the 6 is bigger than the 8, okay? So my greater sign would go towards 3/6. So 3/8 is less than 3/6, okay? When your numerators are the same, you have to think opposite. You have to look at your denominators and think opposite. You have to ask yourself, would I rather share with 8 people or 6 people? Well, I would get a bigger piece of pizza if I shared with only 6 people. Does that make sense? It's a little bit difficult, so we'll keep on practicing to make sure you understand, okay? So when your numerators are the same, you need to look at your denominators and ask yourself, would you get a bigger piece if you shared with 8 people or you shared with 6 people? Well, obviously you would get a bigger piece if you shared with only 6 people, okay? So that's why the greater than sign goes towards the 3/6. So we looked at the same numerator. So go ahead and write same numerator. Same numerator. Okay, let's look at number 5. Okay, number 5, do you see anything that's the same? Look at your numerators. Nope, they are not the same. Look at your denominators. Nope, they are not the same. Now, we can use the missing pieces strategy, which means you could draw your picture and see the missing pieces, okay? Or we could do what you're all great at, which is multiply. We could cross multiply. So that's what we're going to do, boys and girls. Again, I like to rewrite my fractions when the numerators nor the denominators are the same, okay? So I like to rewrite my fractions. All right, so we're going to cross multiply. I'm going across, I'm multiplying across 3 times 8. What is 3 times 8, boys and girls? If you don't know, draw a picture. 24. So I'm going to put 24 on top. You always put it on top. Okay, next to on top of the number, that's on top. Okay, now we're not finished. We got to cross multiply the other side. So go ahead and cross multiply the other side. So now we're multiplying 4 times 7. What is 4 times 7, boys and girls? Good. 28. 4 times 7 is 28. Now you have to ask yourself, which one is bigger, 24 or 28? Well, hopefully you chose 28. So My fraction that is bigger is 7/8. Okay, so 3/4 is less than 7/8. That's how we read that. Remember, your alligator opens up, it chomps the bigger fraction. Okay, so 3/4 is less than 7/8. My bigger number, my bigger fraction is 7/8. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and move on. Let's go ahead and turn your page to 527. 527. Let's look at number 6. It's still more practice. Okay, let's look to see what's the same. Look at number 6. Do you notice anything that's the same? Our numerators are different. That's not the same. But look, our denominators are the same. Okay, so go ahead and circle those two denominators. When my denominators are the same, I'm thinking normal, boys and girls. I'm going to look at those numerators, and I'm just going to ask myself, what is bigger? Is 1 bigger or 2 bigger? Well, of course, 2 is bigger. So 1/2 is less than 2/2. Okay, so 1/2 is less than 2/2. Do you know what 2/2 equals? What does 2/2 equal? Yeah, 1 whole. Any number over itself in a fraction is always equal to 1. Okay, so we had the same denominator. The strategy we used was the same denominator. We had the same denominator. Okay, let's look at number 7. Do you notice anything that's the same on number 7? Boys and girls, I ask myself this question every time I come to comparing fractions. I say, do I notice anything about these two fractions? Do I see anything that's the same? Yeah, I see that my numerators, my numbers on top, are the same. So if my numbers on top are the same, I have to ask myself, would I get a bigger piece of pizza by sharing with 3 people or 4 people? Would I get a bigger piece of pizza sharing with 3 people or 4 people? Well, the less people you share with, the bigger your piece of pizza is going to be, okay? So I would get a bigger piece only sharing with 3 people than 4 people. Remember, this is where you think opposite. When your numerators are the same, you have to think opposite. Okay, 3, I know 4 is bigger, but I would rather share with only 3 people. I would get a bigger piece of pizza if I only shared with 3 people. Okay, so in this case, our strategy was the same numerator. The same numerator. Okay, 2 more of these same type of problems. Let's look at 2/3, 5/6. Do you notice anything that's the same in these two fractions? Nope, I don't see anything that's the same. So that tells me I'm going to cross multiply. We're all great at multiplying. When I need to cross multiply, I rewrite my fractions. Okay, let's go ahead and cross multiply. Boys and girls, what is 2 times 6? 2 times 6 is 12, so I'm going to put my 12 up here on top. Okay, I got to cross multiply the other side. What is 3 times 5? 3 times 5 is 15. Great. I'm going to put my 15 on top. Now ask yourself, what's bigger, 12 or 15? Well, of course, 15 is bigger, so I'm going to circle this entire side. This helps me stay organized, so my fraction 2/3 is less than 5/6. My big mouth is going to open up to my 5/6 because 15 is bigger than 12. So I know my 5/6, my fraction 5/6 is bigger than 2/3. So how we read this fraction is 2/3 is less than 5/6. And if you would, you can write cross multiplied. We cross multiplied. Okay, let's look at number 9. We have 4/6 and 4/2. What is the same? Do you see anything that's the same? We do. We have our same numerators. Remember, when our numerators are the same, you have to ask yourself, would I rather share with 6 people or 2 people? Which one would I get my bigger piece of pizza? Sharing with 6 people or 2 people? Well, yeah, the less people you share with, the bigger piece you're going to get. So 4/6 is less than 4/2. Okay? So I'm going to get a bigger piece of pizza with sharing only with 2 people. Okay? You have to think opposite. When you're asking yourself which one is bigger, well, I'm thinking opposite, so I know that 2 is bigger. Okay? I'm going to get a bigger piece of pizza with sharing with only 2 people. And our strategy is that they each had the same numerator. They each had the same numerator. Okay, so our directions change a little bit. It says name a fraction that is less than or greater than the given fraction. Draw to justify your answer, okay? So if I have my question number 10 says less than 5/6. So I want a fraction that is less than 5/6. Boys and girls, to make this easier, you're going to keep the same denominator. If I were you, I'd keep the same denominator, okay? That tells me I need to find a fraction that's less than 5/6. I can pick any number less than 5, okay? So if I have if I'm going to keep my denominator the same, I can just write my denominator and pick a number that's less than 5. Well, it could be 1, 2, 3, or 4. So let's do 2. Let's just do 2, okay? Now, it says draw to justify your answer. Okay, well, first of all, we need to draw 2 circles, okay, because we have to prove that 2/6 is less than 5/6. So you're going to cut this, both circles into 6. You're going to draw, let's see, I might have did that wrong. Yes, I did. My apologies. We're going to draw an X with a plus sign, okay? Not the best, but it works. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So draw an X and then a line down the center. That kind of gives us the most even, okay? And I'm going to shade in 5/6 on this side. Okay, and I'm going to shade in 2/6 on this side. Okay, so did I just justify my answer? Is 2/6 less than 5/6? Absolutely. There's less that is shaded in. Okay? All right. Let's look at number 11. Greater than 3/8. So if we're greater than 3/8, well, again, keep the same denominator. I promise it will be easier. So I'm just going to keep the same denominator. And I need something greater than 3/8. So greater than the number 3. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Any one of those numbers will work, okay? Let's do 6. Let's do 6, all right? Again, they want us to draw to justify our answer. So go ahead and draw 2 circles. This time we're going to cut it into 8 pieces. This is where you can draw your plus sign and then an X. That's what I tried to do on the last one. I wasn't thinking. So go ahead and draw your plus sign and then an X. That'll give us 8 pieces. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. First, we're going to shade in 3 pieces because the first fraction shows 3/8. Okay, and then my second fraction shows 6/8. So go ahead and shade in 6 pieces. Okay, so does it justify that 3/8 is less than 6/8? Yeah, 6/8 is greater than 3/8. Very good. We just justified our answer by drawing a picture. Okay, so we're going to look at number 12, okay? We're going to do a few more problems. and then we'll be finished with this lesson. But let's look at number 12. It says Luke, Seth, and Anja have empty glasses. Mr. Gable pours 3 cups of orange juice in Seth's glass. Then he pours 1/6 cup of orange juice in Luke's glass and 2/6 cups of juice in Anja's glass. Who gets the most orange juice? Okay, that's a lot of information, okay? First of all, the question that they want us to answer is who gets the most orange juice, okay? So I'm going to have to answer with a name because it's saying who, and I need to find who gets the most, who's going to have the bigger glass of orange juice, okay? So organize the way you set it up. So the first one, Mr. Gable pours 3 cups of orange juice in Seth's glass. So I'm going to write 3/6, and I'm going to put an S by 3/6 for Seth, okay? You can write out the name Seth, or you can just put an S. Either way, it will help you stay organized if you do it this way. Then he pours 1/6 cup of orange juice. So now I have 1/6 in Luke's glass. So I'm going to put an L for Luke. So I have Seth has 3/6, Luke has 1/6, okay? Then he pours 2/6 of juice into Anja's glass. So I'm going to write 2/6 over here. 2/6 for Anja. So I'm going to put an A for Anja. Now, I need to know who gets the most. Well, what do you notice, boys and girls, about all of those fractions? Yes, we've never compared 3 fractions before, but you can do it. What do you notice about all 3 of these fractions? Exactly, they all have the same denominator. When all your fractions have the same denominator, the number that's down, okay, in your fraction, you have to think normal. Which one is the biggest? Look at your numerators now. What number is the biggest? Think normal, 3, 1, or 2. Which one's the biggest? Yeah, the 3. So who gets the most orange juice? Well, if you didn't write the full name and it starts with an S, go back into your story. Who starts with an S? Right here, Seth. So Seth is your answer. Seth is your answer. Okay, let's look at 13. 13 says, Jack says that 5/8 is greater than 5/6 because the denominator 8 is greater than the denominator 6. Well, let's think about this. So let's rewrite what they're saying. They're saying that Jack says that 5/8, I'm going to write 5/8, is greater than 5/6. Okay? So he's saying that 5/8 is greater than 5/6. But we know, there's an error. There's something wrong with that. Well, let's rewrite it. Let's do our own investigation. So I'm going to rewrite those fractions. What do you see that is the same in both of those fractions? Yes, the numerators are the same. They have 5 on each of those fractions as their numerators. When my numerators are the same, boys and girls, you have to think opposite. You have to look at your denominators and think opposite. You have to ask yourself, do I want to share a piece of pizza with 8 people or with 6 people? Would you get the bigger piece of pizza sharing with 8 people or 6 people? Well, of course you would get a bigger piece of pizza with the less people you shared with. So there is his error, okay? His error is that we want to share a piece of pizza, a pizza with 6 people rather than 8 people, okay? So when you look at your numerators, you have to think opposite. Yeah, Jack thought just because 8 was bigger than 6, that 5/8 was greater. He's wrong, boys and girls, because your numerators are the same. You have to think opposite. You have to ask yourself that question. Would I rather share a pizza with 8 people or 6 people? I'd rather share with 6 people. Yeah, I'd love to be more friendly and share with 8 people, but I'm not going to get a bigger piece. Okay, so Jack is wrong. That's what we conclude there. Jack is wrong. All right. Let's go ahead and look at page 528. Let's look at page 528. We are not going to do the top, so go ahead, you may cross out the top, or you can attempt it on your own later on. I just want to look at 15, okay? Let's look at 15, and then we'll be finished with our lesson today. It says, compare the fractions, circle a symbol that makes the statement true. Well, let's look at these two fractions. I have 2/8 and 2/4. Find out what's the same. I ask myself this question every time. Well, the numerators are the same, so when my numerators are the same, I have to look at my denominators and think opposite. Okay, I have to think opposite. Would I rather share a pizza with 8 people or 4 people? Absolutely, I would rather share with 4 people. I'm going to get the bigger piece of pizza by only sharing with 4 people. So 2/8 is less than 2/4. You should have circled your less than sign. Okay, let's look at these next group of fractions. I have 1/4 and 4/8. Do you notice anything that's the same? Well, I have a 1 and a 4 as my numerators and a 4 and an 8. So nothing is the same, boys and girls. So here we go. We have to cross multiply. So I'm going to rewrite my fractions over here because if I cross multiply, I'm going to mess up the symbol I need to circle. And plus it keeps me organized, okay? Go ahead and cross multiply. So over here, what is 1 times 8? 1 times 8 is 8, good. And here I have 4 times 4. What is 4 times 4? 16. Okay, so which one is bigger, 8 or 16? Yeah, 16. So my fraction would be 4/8. 4/8 is greater than 1/4. So make sure that alligator mouth is open to the 4/8. So how would you read that fraction? How do you think you would read that fraction? If you think you read it 1/4 is less than 4/8, you are correct. You are correct. All right, boys and girls, I threw a lot of information at you today. We learned how to look at fractions when numerators are the same. We learned to look at fractions when denominators are the same. We also learned to look at fraction when we don't have the same numerator or denominator. And there we need to cross multiply. Okay? So a lot of information at you today. Please make sure when you go over, when you complete your assessment, that you ask yourself those questions, okay? If you're doing it on the computer, get another sheet of paper, a scrap piece of paper, rewrite those fractions and work it out on paper before you choose your symbol or your answer, okay? All right, great job, boys and girls.